Good afternoon. My name is Pete Ochs, and I've had the pleasure of knowing Bob Smith and being a friend of his for 26 years. Proverbs 18:24 says, "A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." Bob Smith was that kind of friend to me. And I would imagine many of you would say the same thing. How many times did Bob greet you with the phrase, "Hi, my friend," and you knew that he truly meant it? True friendship is a powerful thing, and it manifests itself in a number of ways, all of which I think came really naturally to Bob. He was loyal, trustworthy, and always put my needs above his own. He even returned my borrowed tools, and he returned them in better shape than when he borrowed them. While a good friend is encouraging, a true friend is challenging. He challenged me to be a better husband, a better father, and a better businessman, and most of all, to be a better follower of Jesus Christ. Bob was a professional. Actually, I would say he was a humble professional, because he never talked about his many accomplishments. Bob's continual pursuit of excellence defined his orthodontic practice. He was truly loved by his patients and respected by his peers. His more than a smile philosophy always let patients know that Bob had a personal interest in them. The respect of his peers was seen in the numerous leadership positions he held in various orthodontic associations. And Bob was not only a professional, he was a perfectionist. On a professional level, this was made evident when his peers in the Midwest Ankle Society commended him for his detailed execution of orthodontic case treatments. Sound like Bob Smith? I think so. And on a personal level, there were a number of us who experienced this neurotic behavior on a first-hand basis. Jed Holmes, Dave Miller, myself, and Smitty spent many hours building everything from kitchen cabinets to a log cabin in the woods. And it was during those times that Smitty gave us a whole new appreciation for the phrase, "Measure twice, cut once." I think Smitty's garage is the only garage in Wichita clean enough to perform open heart surgery. He was meticulous. But because of Bob's perfectionism, how many of you are walking around with the perfect smile? I think that at last count, it was over 8,000 of you. Bob loved adventure. He was all in. Whether it was fishing the Canadian boundary waters for walleye and northern pike, flying a Cessna 182, week-long backpacking trips, jeeping Pearl Pass, or riding his Honda 250 dirt bike to the top of a mountain in Colorado. And the amazing thing to me about Bob was that he shared this passion for adventure with many of us. Another thing you may know about Bob is that he loved heights. If it was a 100-foot rappelling cliff, setting the ridge beam on a log cabin, building a zip line, or hanging a flag 40 feet above the ground at 2 in the morning, Bob was always the first to volunteer. And because we really didn't want to disappoint him, we always gave him the job. Bob was an Eagle Scout and consequently had a passion to see character built into young men. Many of our sons were guided into manhood thanks to Bob's foresight and dedication in founding Scout Troop 524. In fact, Troop 524 has guided 68 young men to become Eagle Scouts over the last 18 years. And this is in large part due to Bob's leadership. If you want to see someone who is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and I mean clean, and reverent, you have to look no farther than Bob Smith. And while Bob loved young men, he didn't forget the daughters. Bob helped start an Indian Princess chapter that allowed us dads to have as much fun with the girls as we did with the boys. Although I would have to say camping trips with 10-year-old girls taught us dads that guiding young ladies to womanhood was a bit different than guiding young men to manhood. While many of us view Bob as a type A, get-it-done kind of guy, it was when he was exercising the spiritual gifts of mercy and generosity that he may have had the greatest impact. Bob had a keen understanding of the difference between success and significance. Consequently, he led a high-impact life. Bob's gift of mercy led him to world impact, where he served on the board of directors and also provided dental care to the urban poor for over 30 years. Bob was a generous guy. His generosity was demonstrated by the countless contributions of time, talent, and treasure he made to Trinity Academy as a founding board member. His passion to serve people, his commitment to excellence, and his faithfulness in stewarding resources has resulted in an academic institution that has imparted not only academic excellence, but spiritual maturity to hundreds of young people over the last 17 years. Bob was a very talented guy with many interests, but his greatest earthly love was his family. Bob demonstrated this love in a number of ways, but I think his favorite way was the surprise. A surprise vacation, or a surprise gift, or a surprise note telling his kids how much he loved them and how much he respected them. He was a master at the surprise. His love and devotion for Roxy were over the top. He was an example for all of us husbands. His bond and relationship with his daughter Abby should be the standard for all dads with daughters. And Bob's dream of practicing with his son Brian was realized last Tuesday when Brian took over Smith Orthodontics. You know, they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And it's nice to know that the same personal, professional perfectionism that made Bob Smith will be continued by Brian. Bob Smith lived an abundant, high-impact life. And if you were to ask Bob, he would tell you that the reason for this was his faith in God and his personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Bob epitomized the challenge that has been given to all believers in Galatians 2:20, which says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life that I now live in the body, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me. During the early days of the founding of Trinity Academy, Bob and Bill Nath, who was also a founding member of the school board, those guys were instrumental in determining the motto for the school, which is truth, faith, and character. You see, truth is to know. It's a head thing. Faith is to believe. It's a heart thing. And character is to do. It's a hands thing. Now, many people know the truth, but only some people really believe the truth. And unfortunately, few people really live it out. But Bob was one of those rare individuals who lived it out. And not only did he just live it out, but in the face of severe adversity, terminal cancer, he lived it out with more passion for the truth a deeper conviction of his faith, and a stronger commitment to character. So as we celebrate this truly remarkable, abundant life of Bob Smith, what is the lesson we should learn from his life? What challenge would Smitty give to those of us who are left behind? For those of us who share the same faith and commitment to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ that Bob had, Bob would challenge us to ask the same question he and Roxy asked themselves 2 years ago when the doctor looked them in the eye and told them that Bob had terminal cancer. And that question is this: do you really believe that what you believe is really real? Do you really believe that what you believe is really real? If the answer to that question is yes, then we must rise up and by faith radically live our lives so that the world will see in us the truth that we need for today and the hope that we have for tomorrow. For those of you who are questioning your faith, or for those of you who don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, I would challenge you to earnestly examine the abundant life of Bob Smith and to honestly ask yourself this question: is the pursuit of truth and a personal relationship with Jesus Christ something I need to consider? Perfectionist Bob would expect you to do no less.